something happened, excuse me, in the last week. It caused me to go to a book I had read some time back. Actually, I've read it a couple of times. It's called Why Nations Fail, The Origins of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty. In the last week, well, it's been going on for a while, this debate about rental exemption. And during the pandemic, people have are not evicted because of non-payment of rent, and this has been going on quite a while. And evidently that was passed by Congress, and that has run out. And the president was looking for ways to extend it without going back. And somehow the head of the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, got or was given, or is the fall person or whatever, and she extended that. Now she has no legislative or executive authority to do so, and the Supreme Court has even said so, and the president, in some comments he made, has more or less knows he's on shaky ground. So it's an illegal order, but nobody seems to really care. And why is that important? Private property is one of the bedrocks, the rights of private property of a prosperous nation. A couple of quotes. To be inclusive, economic institutions must feature secure private property and an unbiased system of law. To go further, secure property rights are central, since only those with such rights will be willing to invest and increase productivity. A businessman who expects his output to be stolen, expropriated, or entirely taxed away will have little incentive to work. Inclusive economic institutions require secure property rights and economic opportunities not just for the elite, but for a broad cross-section of society. And part of the so-called American dream has always been that you can own your own home, own your own property. That drove the building of the suburbs and so on. And farms in our country and ranches have been under siege, more or less, by the environmental protective people, and they've been having their property rights stripped away because of environmental protection. In the Great Depression, the government, and I forgot the name of the case, and the Supreme Court affirmed it, they went over and above what the Constitution said and were able to control pricing and what farmers did with their produce and so forth. So every time a country, our civilization, goes down this road, it eventually leads to rack and ruin. Recent cases, the Soviet Union in the 20th century, after when Stalin was in control, they had the kulaks, who were peasants who owned their own farms and whatnot. And he drove them off their farms, starved them, millions of them, in order for the Soviet Union to get control of that property. And then they went through decades of being unable, the Soviet Union being unable to support themselves agriculturally. Right now, China imports a lot of its food. And China does not have respect for private property, and China's driving itself right now the same way the Soviet Union did in its early days, and they're forcing this or that in their economy, and they control everything. And at some point, you saw what happened to the Soviet Union. Venezuela at one time was the most prosperous country in Latin America, and they are on many of them, they're losing citizens because people are on the verge of starvation. Zimbabwe in Africa was once known as the breadbasket of Africa, and they went on a binge of destroying private property and turning it over to people who didn't even know how to run farms. And right now in South Africa, the same thing is happening. A first world economy, their water is almost gone. They can't do anything, and the riots and the looting and so forth have reached huge epidemic proportions. So when you lose the rights to your property, to land you own, the people, back to this thing with the CDC and the landlords who have to allow people to stay. And I understand if people can't pay their rent, that's a dramatic thing, and things have to be worked out and so forth. But the landlords can't collect rent, and most of them are not giant companies. They're people who depend on that income themselves. And if they can't, they've got mortgages on those properties, and if they can't pay those mortgages, then they're going to lose those properties because nothing's being done. The banks, who are big not promoters, but they are big contributors to the Democratic Party, and so at some point they're going to get control of that property. And when that happens, what's going to happen to the renters then? You know, I mean, so I'm going to try to make this quick, but the thing is secure property rights are central to everything. Every country that does not have that, and we have a lot of people in our legislatures who are pushing this and don't understand the unintended consequences of it. Most of those people, I'm weary of listening to them. They have no concept of what's going to happen. And it's all right there in front of you. What they want has failed over and over and over. And when, excuse me, when you don't have secure rights, then you're not going to have a secure nation, because people are going to lose faith. And if you're not equal before the law, if your property rights are not secure, then good things are going to stop happening. Anyway, I wanted to make that observation, and you have a good day.